Now, George Galloway's swearing in as Rochdale's new MP comes as Rishi Sunak's government is looking to clamp down on extremism by deporting foreign hate preachers and broadening the definition of extremism to include those that spread hate. I feel like we've heard this before, don't you? Well, joining us now to discuss this is the former head of counter-terrorism for the City of London Police, Kevin Hurley. Kev, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. So on Friday, we saw a dramatic emergency speech by Rishi Sunak promising to clamp down. And on Monday, now it's all about the words. There is people now apparently that don't pose a direct threat to Britain, but those who undermine the country's institutions or values, and promising finally to kick people out who are hate preachers. Kevin, is this fiddling while Rome burns, and is it just too little too late?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been fiddling while Rome burns for at least the last 10, 12 years. Turning to the issue of preachers teaching or preaching hate, this has been a problem in the UK for many, many years. Many imams are trained in madrasas in Pakistan. They are quite extreme, following extreme Salafist doctrine funded by Saudi Arabia. And it's estimated between 50 and 60% of the mosques in the UK have been covertly funded by Saudi Arabia to preach extreme Salafism, which I know in some cases, including when I investigated the Red Hill Mosque a while ago, with stuff like spread the blood of the Christian on the sand. So, you know, that's happened in the past in Surrey. I'm pretty sure it's going on elsewhere. As for the words about police need to get on and deal with disorder, etc., we discussed that the other day. They simply have not got the numbers. They're actually too worried and too scared about their own jobs to do that. And finally, they do not have the proper public order equipment that's now required to police large groups of people who do not follow the traditional British values of a bit of pushing and shoving and shouting and very quickly turn into mob violence. So I'm talking about they need water cannon, they need index marker solutions that you can get the people after the event, they need various forms of projectiles like baton rounds, bean bags, that kind of stuff. As well as large-scale pepper sprays to keep the crowd distant. Because very quickly, if our police were to get stuck in, they won't do, I can tell you that now, you'd start to get large numbers of casualties. You wouldn't have enough police to police those demonstrations or whatever. And the big point I make about this, Martin, is all those officers you see in our cities at the moment policing these demonstrations have got a normal day job. That's called patrolling and policing the local areas where we all live, and then we wonder why there's no one turning up to investigate our burglaries or when our car gets broken into, or people wait ages for a 999 call. It is because they're all drawn in central London, now big cities, policing these demonstrations.
And Kev, that brings me neatly on to my next point, because here's a clip I want to play in now of the police doing absolutely nothing on Saturday at that pro-Palestine march, despite the previous day the Prime Minister saying the police would have tough new powers. Watch this. So, Kev, we talk a lot on this show about two-tier policing. I put it to you, Mr. Hurley, if those protesters had been Millwall fans or indeed any football fans doing that, shoving coppers, swearing, spitting, whacking them with flagpoles, they'd have been tasting a baton. Every single one of them would have been nicked, and yet they're standing off and doing nothing to this crowd.
I think that's quite a possibility. The police there will be very concerned. You've got so-called legal advisors there. One recently was quick to fall on the floor. She's made a complaint against police when they were about allegedly to get more physical, if you like. But I despair looking at that. I think they knew this was going to be a problem. Why haven't the senior officers told those officers to clip their public order helmets with visors on their belts so that as soon as it gets physical, You say, put the helmets on, but then the crowd knows you mean business. But those officers there haven't even got gloves on, most of them. So they're not even scaled up to do business, if we use that term, or getting physical. And it's a leadership issue. It's the fact that the police don't feel backed or supported. And it doesn't matter what the Prime Minister says. I can tell you they will not engage and get stuck in the way in which people think they should, because they're scared for their own jobs and scared of being prosecuted. The police are onto a hiding to nothing. And by that, I mean those young cops out there who volunteer to do that work in addition to the normal patrol activity. If we're serious in this country about taking the streets back and dealing with this, we need a whole new regime of leadership within the police where they say, yes, we want water cannon. We want to use pepper sprays on these kind of crowds. We want to keep our people protected and distanced, because there's no question if you started spraying them with water cannon or you started spraying them with pepper spray, that crowd would fall back and they'd pack it in. So, you know, we can't have it two ways. Either we accept the fact we're going to let police officers get shoved around embarrassed and our crowd's dominated by God knows who they are, or we change the paradigm and we deal with the fact that people like Mayor Khan sold off the Metropolitan Police's water cannon after Cameron said that they could have them, but then May wouldn't licence them after Boris bought them. So there's all kinds of internal politics going on in the Tory party here about why the police haven't got that which they should have. I mean, for goodness sake, we're quite happy to use water cannon on the Irish over in the north of Ireland. So what's the difference?
Yeah, Kevin Hurdy speaking common sense, and a lot of people would no doubt like that. And a lot of those guys there with the first shower they'd had in months. Kevin Hurdy, thank you very much for joining us on the show.